Sorry for delay, it was technical issue with my laptop. It ran down of power just 3 minutes before presentation. But now we are ready to start, and my name is Vitaliy. I am a game developer from Ukraine, but as you see, today we are going to talk about wearables. And I am doing a lot of stuff with wearables because I'm running Google developer group in our city, and I'm really passionate about it. And today we are going to talk about how easily you can add support for wearables to your device. And particularly, we're going to talk about Sony Smart extensions. It's for Sony smart watches. And Mario, who is sitting on the back, going to talk about extending your apps to wearable for Android Wear tomorrow. So let's start. Did you saw a picture like this? Who saw this picture? Or situation in metro like this, so everyone is looking in their phones and so on and so on. So this is actually a problem, and scientists in Japan, I guess, found that because of this situation, that everyone is stubborn on their phones and don't talk to each other, around 3% less children are born in Japan, and that's the problem there. So they decided to make some programs to increase a number of children born in Japan, and actually big companies also work on this issue. And how do they do this? Here is your day. Like green line is your real life, and red and blue is like when you get notification, you get your phone, you check this notification, and then okay, I got my phone, let's check Facebook, Twitter, and so on, so on, so on, and you get lost in your phone. And this is a pretty common situation, and happens a few times a day. Big companies like Sony, Google, and probably Apple, starting from their presentation, want to solve this problem and make a situation like this. They want to make this time spans when you check notifications smaller, using wearable devices. Google made their first try with Google Glass, but it's my personal opinion, but they failed their experiment. Google Glass didn't get their social adoption, and it looks like it won't be published to the real audience for now. But there are another trend now that we have smartwatches, and smartwatches is really a thing. And first company that made a really cool smartwatch was Pebble. Who knows about Pebble? Who used Pebble? Okay, I see 2 people. Probably Pebble is one of the best smartwatches on the market now, because you don't have to charge them every day. But it has a lot of competitors now. And there are developers who have to develop apps for these wearable devices. And here is how look daily developer process for wearable developer in our company. Like, you have 4 test devices. Do you know each of these? Who can name all devices here? No one? Okay, I can, yes. So, Pebble, Google G Watch, Samsung, and Sony. That was that was 4 smartwatches available in the market 1 month ago, but after IFA, we found that there are all major companies want to publish their smartwatch devices, like Samsung launched their new Android Wear device, LG showed, Asus, Sony, even Garmin launched their Android Wear device. So we have to, so this is becoming more and more in trend, and we have to deal with that. And what do we have for now? All wearables can be separated in 2 parts. First one, that are Android Wear, and just 3 weeks ago we had only 2 watches, but now we have 4 more. These 4 are not publicly available, but we'll be able to buy them soon. And on the other side, we have other smartwatches running on whatever you want, like Pebble have their own OS, Samsung have Tizen, Sony has their smart extensions we're going to talk about, and Apple also has something. Who saw Apple presentation? Do you like it? Yes? Who said yes? Yes. We can discuss about Apple's Watch after the presentation. Okay. But today we're going to talk about Sony Smart Extensions because we're developing for wearable devices for Android Wear will be covered tomorrow. So Sony Smart Extensions, and why I selected this topic because Sony developed smart devices even before it was mainstream. They released their first wearable device somewhere in the middle of 2012. It was that device on the right. It was called Smart Band. It's something like Bluetooth harness, but you can check your notifications on it. And it also had API. And later they launched Sony Smartwatch first one, it's on the left, and Sony Smartwatch 2. All these three devices were running on the same API. So you can develop your apps for all these three devices at the same time. How do they work, and what's the main idea of Sony added to their API? So they wanted to utilize the phone power as much as possible. That's why all apps you write for Sony Smart Extensions is plain Android apps running on your phone, and they just render picture on your smart band or your watch. It has one great plus that we can build as powerful apps as our phone allows it, but other drawback is that because your watch becomes useless when your phone is not charged. So when some events happen, like touch events, sensor changes are made on our watch, it passes all data to our host application on our phone, and our phone passes back image to our watch. Here's how it looks architecture. So I don't have pointer, so sorry for that. We have our accessories, smart accessories. They communicate via Bluetooth with our host applications. We have Smart Connect app. Both of these apps, like Smart Connect, handles part of API, and host applications for each of smart accessories handles communication and rendering on your device. And our smart extension, the applications that we are writing, communicates with both of these applications. And there are 5 types of APIs you can access. First part of them are intent-based, that communicates directly with our host app. This is control API that probably you will face with. That is responsible for rendering layouts on your watch, getting sensor data, and so on. Another example from another part of APIs is content provider based. That's APIs that connects not to host application but to Smart Connect. They allow to get access to notifications, and why do they communicate through Smart Extension, through Smart Connect app? They want to solve the problem when we get notification to both of our devices, and if we read device read notification on, for instance, on our watch, it deletes, it marks that this notification was read in Smart Connect app, and it's automatically removed for our smart band. So also we have widget, sensor, and registration and capabilities API, but they are not so interesting. Compatibility. As you can understand, Smart Band is not as cool as smartwatch. It don't have all the sensors, it don't have color screens, so some APIs are not available. For instance, sensor API is not available, and widget API is not available. Widget API is API responsible for drawing small widgets on, it's something like watch faces. Widget API allows you to create part of watch face on Sony smartwatch, something like this. Quick walkthrough through development. So if you want to start develop Sony smartwatch applications, you don't need to learn anything new except their API. So you just have your Android Studio, you have to download their SDK from ADT. You have to install Smart Connect and your host application to your phone, and you're done. You can start develop apps. What is the structure of the project? If you want to start, the easiest way to start is to find similar sample application, because there are around 20 or 25 sample applications for Sony smartwatch SDK. You import their official library, and you can start develop apps. And it was just like that before API version 2. And after on API version 2, they added an official library. That's because, as I said, we have two sets of APIs, content provider based and intent based. Both of them requires a lot of boilerplate code, and they decided to solve this issue somehow and release their unofficial library. And actually, your project, which is using these two libraries. If you want to write simple Hello Droidcon application for our smartwatch, it won't be possible to do like this. Instead, we have to create Android manifest file with around 40 lines just to handle all these intents that we can get from our smartphone application. We have to create extension receiver that will actually catch all these intents. Service where our app will be running on. Define in a separate class all APIs that we are going to use. And in screen control app, we'll actually, this is entry point for our application. So, not one line, it's a lot of boilerplate code, but if you are going to use sample applications, it's very easy to start. Two things to note. First thing is don't forget to add this use permission to your manifest file just to get access to APIs from Smart Connect and host application. And second, I want to show you a small amount of code. This is how actual API look like. So if you want just to make your watch vibrating, you have to create intent, put extra how long you want to vibrate, how long you want not to vibrate, and send it to host application. And this method sent to host application was added in this utils library in the second version of API. Before that, you had to bundle all that and send. And if you're going to use like a lot of, if you're going to update your APIs or make a lot of API calls, your code will look like this. A lot of bundles, a lot of creation and necessary code. It's easy to solve this stuff, but you have to create your own library on top of these two libraries. And that's a bit a problem. About debugging. Debugging is nothing special as well. The only difference is that you're writing your app for a watch, but you have to connect your phone to and debug application on your phone as it's running on your phone. About testing. There is two ways. You can test on a real device, or Sony provides also an emulator that can emulate both of smartwatches and three types of smartbands. About UI guidelines. Sony don't provide UI guidelines at all. You won't find anything like in material design. Like material design, there is huge scientific word about how it should look like, why it should look like this. Sony don't provide UI guidelines for their smartwatches at all. That is a problem because in the market you can find applications with any UI you can imagine. The only thing they give is like things to consider. Like they provide some resolutions, they make a small note about information levels. Like the only thing they show says that don't display too much information. That's all the things they put into information level idiom. The one thing that they put notice about is dimmed mode. It's special mode added in Sony Smartwatch 2. It's power saver mode when your screen becomes black and white, and you have to adapt your layouts and colors to looks good on this dimmed mode. And some things about icon sizes, buttons, and so on and so on. Like nothing about UI guidelines or UX guidelines, just like the things that we have to know about how to publish. all the stuff to market. And actually about publishing. If you want to publish your app to Android Store, Google Play Store, there are two options. You can deliver it as a separate app, as like everyone will be able to download it from Android market, just package it as a simple Android app. But it doesn't make sense actually, because user won't see it in app drawer on the phone, only in his watch, and it's a bit frustrating. The other and much better option is when you extend your app to work as well as with wearables. And the only things that they ask to add, if your application supports smart extensions, you have to add Smart Connect extension for smartwatch or smart band at the end of your description. In original version of this presentation, I was also talking about Android Wear SDK, but Maro will talk about it in detail tomorrow. And I made some experiments with how to put all this stuff together. I have 10 minutes left, great. So how to make your app with support of Android Wear and Sony Smart extensions. So first of all, we have business case that our customer wants his integration for all possible wearable devices for his application. So first thing to consider is architecture. And because we have different types of views, like Android Wear his own system to render layouts, Sony Smart Extensions has its own system to render layouts, so we have to somehow separate our business logic from our rendering code. And for this purposes, model view presenter pattern works real well. We'll have a separate view for each of our platform and common business logic for everything else. Project structure is the same as I mentioned above. We have our smart extension API and utils from Sony. We have our business logic in library. We have separate application for Wear, as it packaged as a separate application, and during deployment to Google Play, it's bounded into your main app. And in the last line, it's our application that could be our main application with integration of for smartwatch or only smartwatch from Sony integration. This is how project structure will look like 3 separate projects, a lot of code. If you want to add, as I said, this line will add and bound Android Wear APK into your main application. And that's pretty all. If you want to check sample codes, look for this app on a GitHub. It's open source. If you want to check another Android conference, go to DevFest Ukraine. And if you want to find more information about it, catch me out somewhere later. And for now, thanks for your attention. And if you have any question about wearables or someone want to chat about Apple smartwatch, we can chat now because we have 10 more minutes. Okay.
Hello. Hi. The example you gave was for Sony Watch, and nothing runs on the Sony Watch. It really just displays the information you sent from your mobile phone. Is there? I'm a bit confused. Is there a Google Watch now? And does Google Watch actually run any apps on the watch?
Yes. Google Watches? You mean Android Wear devices?
Did Google not come out with their own watch?
Yeah. So I was talking about smartwatch from Sony.
Yeah.
It was launched 2 years before Google smartwatch, and all applications running on this smartwatch are running on your phone and just show pictures or layouts on your actual watch. The watch you are talking about from Google, they execute everything on watch.
So the programs actually run on the watch itself. Is it a full Android system on the watch?
Yes, there are some APIs blocked, but mainly yes, more or less yes.
and it's easier to program. You don't have a load of APIs that you have to import. You can develop directly on the Google Watch.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Why would you use Sony then?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Why would you use Sony? The Google Watch seems to be much simpler.
Because Sony is awesome. And
Ah,
it
okay.
was launched 2 years before Google.
Thank you.
Okay, here is one more question. I remember about you.
Excuse me. Is there some kind of emulator to emulate the behavior of any of the watch you displayed today to kind of make it easier to develop?
Sony? Of course, yes. There is emulators running. You can install emulator that will run on your phone, and you can deploy your apps there. You will be able to use each API, except on the last version they had bug with sensor API that you weren't able to get data from accelerometer. But they could fix it. I didn't check that. There was one more question on the back.
Thank you. Since I guess you use both Sony and the Android Wear devices, what do you think? What is your opinion about the future of non-Android Wear devices? Can they catch up with Google even without Android Wear, or they're doomed?
It's a hard question, but I'll try to answer it. Let's look at Sony. 3 months ago, as I remember, when Android Wear was launched on Google I/O, they announced that Sony Smartwatch 3, and they said, no, we'll never use Android Wear, we'll have our own awesome operating system, and we'll deal with that. Recently on IFA, like 2 weeks ago, they released a Sony Smartwatch on Android Wear. So that's the case. But now we have Apple Watch running on Samsung. That's one custom operating system. We have Pebble that has totally different operating system, and it's impossible to use approach I described here because for Pebble you have to write on C. It's a bit strange C, but still it's C. And I'm pretty sure that Samsung will deal with Tizen, because they launched several smartwatches with Tizen like 1 or 2 months ago. So probably Tizen, something from Apple, Android Wear, and Pebble, but it's very hard to answer what will be with Pebble if other smartwatches will solve the problem with battery. Any other questions? Okay, if there is no question, I will be somewhere here for next 2 days, so catch me up and let's talk about it. Thank you.